There are some people that are like, what? No, that's not really, whoa, she's not, whatever, all the projections, right? She's not serious. She's not trustworthy. She can't be smart enough because, like, how could you believe in something like that? All of that, right? And what's also true is that a lot of people are like, huh. First of all, I found that people really admire the courage in being like, yeah, I'm a witch. What's your problem? Kind of thing. And that most of us are super compelled and intrigued by the mystery.
Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Woo Curious podcast. Your map to the mystical, your key to the sacred, and your guide back home to yourself. I'm Eileen, a writer, a spiritual coach, energy healer, and slow living witch. This podcast is your invitation to explore a world where the mundane and the sacred intertwine. It's a haven for those ready to take the first steps into the realms of magic and mystery, providing a safe space for you to embark on your own enchanted journey towards healing and self-discovery. Here, I'll unveil the whispers of the mystical, the rituals often hidden in plain sight, and I'll engage in sacred conversation intended to stir your soul and lead you back into your power. I'm all about demystifying woo and witchcraft. So, whether you're a seasoned seeker or simply woo curious, I'm so delighted you've decided to join me on this journey. Let's make magic. Have you ever held back from speaking your truth or showing up and being vocal and visible out of fear of what others might think? Me too. What I didn't realize when I first started the journey that led me to where I sit today, speaking to you, was that this fear of being too loud, too much, too different, it wasn't just in my head. It was ancestral. It was generational. It was called the witch wound. And it's a wound that I share with most, if not each and every one of you. A deep, inherited fear that whispers, if I speak my truth, I'll be cast out. If I stand in my power, I won't be safe. Instead of letting that ancestral wound keep me quiet, keep me small, I chose to heal it. I reclaimed my voice, my rhythms, my rest, and I built this business that nourishes me instead of depleting me. And now, I help others do the same, to create lives that allow them to remember the wisdom that lives deep inside of them, to feel connected to their bodies, their inner power, to other women, and to the earth herself. If something in you is stirring right now, if you're ready to stop shrinking, stop apologizing, and start showing up fully in your power, connected to your own body and the magic of the earth, I'd love to support you. On February 18th, I'm offering a free masterclass all about the witch wound, how it shows up in your life, how it's holding you back, and most importantly, how to heal it. I would love so much if you would join me. The sign-up link, as always, will be below in the show notes, or you can head to myluminouslife.ca/witchwound. Hello, Woo Crew, and welcome back to another episode of the Woo Curious podcast. I am your host, Eileen, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Maritza Schafer. She is the founder of Bruha School, where she teaches the liberation magic method. Her teachings center around a simple premise: the secret to life and everything you truly want is spiritual connection, free from religious trauma and new age bullshit. Grounded in her indigenous Chilean and Mediterranean lineage, Maritza blends ancestral wisdom and practical coaching. She equips people with powerful spiritual tools and real magic to create meaningful lives and bring transformation to their communities. Welcome to the show, Maritza. It's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and I was just saying before we hopped on how exciting it is to have another self-professed witch in the seat next to me or across from me, as it were. So it's exciting to connect and to see what kind of conversation we're going to have today. So I always start this podcast with a question about your own spiritual journey. And for
Mhm.
context, I came to my spirituality relatively late in life. I think I
Mhm.
always had a curiosity about things spiritual, but for a long time, I was very much like, I'm a scientist, I'm rational, nothing I can't see or prove exists. And so I'm always really curious if your like being a witch or your spirituality has been with you through your whole life, or is it something that you've come to explore a little later in life, and how it informs the work that you do?
Thank you for asking me about my story. I actually was born and raised in Chile, where most people are Catholic. There is a small Jewish population. There's actually the largest Palestinian population outside of the Middle East, but the country is mostly Christian.
Mm.
My family had a lot of Catholic influence or Christian influence. Like when I was growing up, we had a Christmas tree every Christmas. Actually, that's probably the extent of it. Because my mom and my grandmother were both witches, but like my grandma would sometimes go to mass. That's like kind of like the available cultural practice.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, at least in my family, that was not the main thing that was going on at all. The main thing that was going on was an acknowledgement of spirit first and foremost, without any sort of stories on top of it. So it may very well be that, you know, a man died on a cross, or it may very well be that somebody parted the sea. That's all potentially part of the story. And yet, my spirituality has always been about direct experience,
Mm.
about how I perceive the sacredness of life, of my
Mm-hmm.
own life, of your life, of all living beings, of the earth herself,
Mm-hmm.
and how I work with unseen energies basically to better my life and my community's life. So, this idea that, like you were saying, like you have to see it to know that it's real, was never really a belief that I had to let go of because I never really had it in the first place. And so, my history with spirituality is as long as I've been alive. Never have I ever, though, considered myself religious because, again, from my background, being religious meant being Catholic or being some other flavor or of Christianity or going to temple. And my family never did that. My family always just did other kinds of practices at home that are basically ritual and spell casting now in hindsight, but at the time were just like the way things were. So
Mm.
I've been living this way, I guess, for a very long time. When I was really young, I didn't talk about sort of God at all because I didn't want people to think that I was from that flavor of religiosity, and that's still true. So the fact that I have a deep, deep spiritual practice doesn't mean anything in terms of what most people understand as
Mm-hmm.
religion. And I think that's partly why you were saying like so few people self-identify as witches, because there's so much story around that. And it's,
Yeah.
to put it mildly, unusual, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I love hearing this story. There's like this pang of envy that happens in me when I think about, you growing up steeped in these traditions and rituals, and kind of probably knowing, maybe even without fully being conscious, that from an early age that you were indeed a witch from a line of witches, and that
Mhm.
not having to overcome the hurdle of being socialized in a way that it was like that was a not okay part of things to look at or to believe in. Or you look like you have a thought there.
I'm like, yes. And okay, so check this out. So my mom is a medical doctor. She has three specialties. She's like a total nerd. She still works as a lung specialist in pediatrics, so like for children, right?
Yeah.
But she's also worked as a cardiologist before. And everybody in her community, like all of her close friends, call her literally the witch, right? La Bruja is like her nickname. And so, what I've realized over the years is that a lot of people think that that's like a really cute nickname. Like, they're not really
Mm.
letting in the fact that it's like, oh, she's kind of magical. Yes. And she's actually magical. And I
Mhm.
say about like this, speaking to your idea of like, oh, I'm envious that you had like kind of like this freedom around it. I was like, yes and no, because witchiness is something that even in my family was still appropriately closeted when needed, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure like my mom went through med school with most of her colleagues not knowing that she was a
Yeah,
witch, for example,
for sure.
right? And so while there was a lot of magic in my home, and I did learn a lot from my family in terms of ritual and working magic, really, and how to make things happen and all that, um, I have struggled with this myself for a very, very long time. Like I have this school where I teach spiritual tools basically for the last handful of years. And it's been like such a slow process to fully own it and feel comfortable with it because I also do other kinds of work, right? I have an organizational development
Mm.
consulting company. I've like restructured organizations around the world. And there was always this fear that like, the CEO of that think tank is not going to appreciate that I'm, quote, reading the tarot on the side. And that's kind of true, right?
Yeah.
Like there are some people that are like, what? No, that's not really, whoa, she's not, whatever, all the projections, right? She's not serious. She's not trustworthy. She can't be smart enough because like, how could you believe in something like that? All of that, right? And what's also true is that a lot of people are like, huh. First of
Huh?
all, I found that people really admire the courage in being like, yeah, I'm a witch. What's your
Mm-hmm.
problem? Kind of thing. And that most of us are super compelled and intrigued by the mystery.
Yeah.
And so few of us are fully living in it in a really joyful and productive is a little bit too like capitalistic, but in a really healthy, happy, joyful way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're speaking the experience that I've had for the last several years. I came out of the broom closet back in, was it 2023? So it's not been that long since I've claimed the title of witch, though I was a midwife before I became an entrepreneur. And so many people were like, "Don't you already consider yourself a witch? You were already walking that path." But what I've found since stepping into that term and that word is that it either pulls people in or pushes them away. It's quite polarizing. And I would love to hear, or this is a question that I get asked often, what is your definition of witch? What does la bruja mean to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me start with this. I think the word is polarizing because a witch, I think, is first and foremost somebody, usually women, it doesn't have to be, but usually women, who is really owning her entire power and incredibly in tune with the actual nature of reality.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? It's somebody, a woman usually, again, but not always, who can understand why things are the way they are, can accept them the way they are, and hence has more power in transforming them than pretty much anybody else. So the way I define a witch is simply a wise woman that has a deep connection to spirit and invisible forces, that understands the nature of reality and can work with unseen forces in ways that unfortunately many of us forgot how to do, because I don't think it's anything special. You don't have to be particularly gifted, or you don't have to be the chosen one or anything like that. You just need to be open to the reality of your human incarnation that is largely spirit. It's not
Mm-hmm.
only spirit, it's body, it's other things, it's feelings, right? It's thoughts, but it's a lot of it is just energy as well. And that's polarizing because when you think about it from if you zoom out from that definition, Eileen, and you give it a sociopolitical analysis,
Mm-hmm.
if women, let's just start with women,
Yeah.
were really embodying and owning their power, the entire neoliberal capitalistic system would collapse,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so basically, my analysis is that there's like 3 or 5 guys that are hoarding all of the resources, trashing the place for everybody. And if we weren't in a situation where most of us are kept under resourced, oppressed, in fear,
Mm-hmm.
then we would actually do what it takes to take that back. And
Hmm.
so that's why we're feared, because we are a threat to bullshit systems.
Yeah, here. I agree for sure. I love that like recognition of, and you almost answered my question that I jotted down as you were speaking. I wrote down, why do we need witches now more than ever? Why do we need women who are stepping into this embodiment of power? And I think you answered it as you spoke, because the system is collapsing, because it's not sustainable. And we need women and people who are connected to themselves, connected to the earth, connected to each other, and that more than human realm to help
Right.
hold us through this collapse.
Totally, totally. And also because it's happening, it's basically a function of like, how do we want to get through this? Because it's
Mhm.
happening, there's no
Mhm.
stopping it. And let's face it, a lot of it is just going to suck. There's no two ways around it. Transformation is rarely neat. It
Yeah.
tends to be messy. Sometimes it can even be painful. But again, this idea of acknowledging the nature of reality, pain is unavoidable in life.
Mhm.
I heard somewhere a quote that I've always loved, and I hate to say I don't know the actual source, but it went, pain is necessary, suffering is optional, right? And what
Yes.
that means to me is that in life, pain is just a part of it, right? Like when we're born, mom is usually not having a great, pleasant time, but it's totally gorgeous and beautiful and worth it and all of the things. And the suffering comes when we make up stories about how pain shouldn't exist. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But back
Mhm.
to your question is like, why would witches be important right now? Or why are witches needed? Or why do I believe we should be empowering ourselves with all of these tools and spiritual connections? And it's because, unfortunately and luckily at the same time, in the West, at least, what we've done over the last couple of 100 years is coming to a screeching halt.
Mhm.
I say unfortunately because the whiplash from that is hurting so many people.
Mhm.
And like, that's just not pleasant. And luckily, because we could not keep going the way we were going, right?
Mhm.
And so, in that process, the more we're connected, the more we're in a collective with one another, the easier the transition is going to feel. That's what I genuinely believe. And the more ideas we're going to come up with to cope and to rebuild and to envision a new way of being that is really not that mystical and not that mysterious. It's just not that hard. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, what we need is a few folks to give up power, which they're not gonna. So we're gonna have to take it back through
Mhm.
however we're gonna get there. Hence the question marks of how painful or not is this gonna be. But then there's enough for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we have like such a gorgeous planet. There's like fruit coming out of trees. There's food coming
Mhm.
out of the ground, and we're like in this rat race. Like, what were we thinking?
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
I feel like that's exactly it, is that need for the people who are really ready to make this shift, who maybe don't know what the path forward looks like, but are willing to walk it and help us travel it. And I love that you touched on that piece of spirituality and witchcraft that is like, it's not mystical, it's not out there, it's not like all in the ethers. It's practical, it's grounded, it's earthly. It's not the spiritual bypassing that we so often get in the like love and light and ascension kind of spirituality that seems to be very in vogue these days. And my experience of witchcraft is it's an embodied experience, really. Is It's in deep connection with the physical, which is
Correct.
imbued with the spiritual, but it's not, you can't escape the body if we want to move forward.
OMG, I've met my witchy soulmate at this podcast. Let me say two things that were triggered by what you were just sharing, because I've been thinking about this a lot. So first of all, this whole like, it's not mystical, it's not out there. I came across an interview a couple of days ago. I forget their names, luckily, because I don't want to talk shit about anybody, but it just happened to be two white guys, right? And one was basically talking about how mindfulness and mindset and meditation were really powerful, and epigenetics and like the science behind it, right? And then the comment is something like, it's not magic, it's science. And I was like, how dare you? It's magic. Science is now finally being able to explain it. Like, some of
Mm-hmm.
us have known all freaking along that when we feel a particular way, when we envision something in a particular way, our body can't really tell if that already happened or if it's about to happen. It's happening now, and that's part of like how you work magic and you make things happen. And then this dude is like, oh, it's science. And I'm like, yes, yes, it is science. Science explains it. But don't add the it's not magic onto it, because that's just insulting millennia of tradition that
Mm-hmm.
outperformed science for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to say about that. And the other thing that your comment, it's funny because these are two of my biggest pet peeves. I didn't mean to go on a rant, but here we are.
We're here for it.
And then the other thing is that when I first started getting on social media just to talk about spirituality and my practices and teach people and all that, I came across a whole lot of people with the green smoothies that are like, put your mention on your vision board. And like, if you're not getting it, it's like you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, did you hit your head? That is, first of all, is victim blaming, if you want to call it victim, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like somebody's not able to have what they truly desire yet, and you're acting like it's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
Caveat: I see what they're saying because it's, quote, their fault in that, can I create my own reality? 100%. I believe that in my heart. Yes. And we live in a context that is super screwy. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
100% up to me. And it's not 100% up to the context, right? Like, that's the paradox of life. I believe paradox to be one of life's organizing principles. And so, while, yes, I hear you, lady with the smoothie, you are probably doing something wrong if your mansion on your vision board hasn't manifested yet. That's true to some extent. But what's also true is that some of us have a much better starting line than others in terms of, say, of physical financial wealth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or some of us might be immigrants, or some of us might be whatever, like have three children and are like, no, it's not that simple. And so, while I do believe most of the things that I come across in, say, social media about, manifesting or how magic happens and all that, I think that extracting it from the context that we live in is incredibly irresponsible and dangerous, because
Mm-hmm.
then, instead of us coming together as a collective to bring forth this new world that you and I are talking about, then we become individualized about, like, well, shit, if it's not working, it's my fault. And I'm not. So it does two things, right? It makes me feel like crap because, like, if I'm not fabulous, it's because I'm not doing it right, which
Mm-hmm.
is not true, because you also are impacted by everything.
Yeah.
One. And two, it reinforces the idea that it's you and only up to you, when one of the basic tenets of all spiritual traditions is that we're all one.
Mm-hmm.
We're all one. And with the plants and the animals and all of existence, right? It's like there's
Yeah.
some sort of unifying field. And when you apply that to really social environments, it means that as a collective and as a community, we can do a lot more than individually. I believe healing and growing courage and liberation to be collective endeavors. I don't
Yeah.
believe I can heal alone. I mean, even now, like, I'm dealing with this back pain. It's so annoying. And I have a physical therapist. And I'm like, could I do the exercise on my own? Maybe, but would it take me way longer to know where to start? Of course, because that's not my specialty. Like,
Right.
what do you mean you can heal alone? You know what I'm saying? So I think that all of those things happen in community. And one of the biggest challenges that I see facing us as a collective is that community is just such a challenge these days.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to keep connected because, again, the systems are designed to keep us apart, even to the point that when we come across a teacher online, they're like, focus on yourself and meditate every morning, which is fabulous. And please keep doing it. And if you haven't started, please start. And also, how does that impact your social life and the real world?
Yeah. And how do you find your people? Like, it is, you're speaking to something that I feel like is almost like this, I don't know what the word for, but like a curse of our modern society, and that was
Mm.
really heightened with the COVID epidemic that happened as well, is this isolation. But our whole societal structure is set up to keep us isolated. We live in these homes with one or two other people. Now we're working often from home. The way this society is structured is meant to keep us apart. And then we have these spiritual, I'm going to call them new age, because they are very like this new grasping for meaning. And I know that so many of the people who've followed these paths are doing so, they're lost and they're
Mhm.
looking for that meaning and that connection and something deeper than what they're getting. But again, they're going about it in this way that is perpetuating the individualism, that's putting all of the onus on the individual instead of the collective. And yeah, you're the green smoothie, Botox white chick who's probably got her sage bundle and is trying to smudge the circle before we begin without acknowledging where these medicines and these practices and these traditions come from. It's causing further harm in a lot of ways.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think,
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, and I think particularly because this idea that I alone can fix it, and I'm quoting somebody who should not be a leader there, is everywhere in our society. And the fact that it's even in spiritual spaces is the part that's most heartbreaking to me, because that's
Yeah.
the one place where it doesn't belong. I mean, it doesn't belong anywhere, but it's like I'm adding insult to injury. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would love for all spiritual spaces to be really open and welcoming and compassionate and empathic and understanding of people, that yes, you're struggling by yourself in this particular issue, but you don't have to do it alone, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
another paradox of spiritual growth, is that at the end of the day, all my practices, all of my learnings, all of my offerings are mine to own, to go through, but I don't do that in isolation.
Yeah.
In other words, like, nobody's going to be able to do the meditation for me, nobody's going to be able to do the self-reflection for me, nobody's going to be able to do the whatever it is that I'm doing for a practice for me. I actually do need to do that, and we don't have to do it alone, and we don't have to be individually responsible for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's such a need to, how do I want to say that? There, there's this sense, and again, it's a cultural construct, that asking for help, that reaching out for support, that doing things not alone is a sign of weakness. And as
Mhm.
much as the narrative is changing around that, but the belief, the way that we've kind of grown up being told overtly or subliminally that your worth, your livability, it's based on your productivity, it's based on your ability to, like, boss babe your way through and be, do it all yourself and make it in a man's world. There's all these turns of phrase that show us clearly how much we've been told that it's not okay to ask for help. You should be able to do it alone. And so undoing some of that and remembering that we're communal animals. We have never been isolated. Like, an isolated human dies.
Right.
And it's going as far back as we can. Like, we were always communal animals. We need each other for support and for growth and for healing. And yeah, it's something that I've really woven into my own offers and practices. I've recognized that community is so important. So I've created community. And it sounds like that's what you're doing too in your offers. And your Bruha school sounds, I mean, school, right? That's like a
Mhm.
collective. There's something about that says there's many bodies here.
Right. Right. Yeah, because what happens is, when there's a group of people, they're not I mean, this sounds so cheesy to say, but it's kind of like a cliche because it's true, right?
Right.
when I'm teaching to a group of people, they're not just learning from me, they're learning from each other. And when
Mhm.
somebody asks a question, the other person goes like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. That's such a great question." And so like it's just a different dynamic. And I think that yes, there are times when we need individual support, and that's amazing that we sometimes can have that be available to us. But if I'm trying to create a space for people to really dig deep into their spiritual power, my experience is that doing that in a group is a lot more powerful and a lot more enriching and satisfying for everybody involved.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been my experience too, for sure. I'm curious, actually, this just landed in my head. I'm curious a little bit about, people are often curious to know what my practices are, what I do, like as a witch, what does my day look like? And in so many ways it's similar to everybody else's days, but there's the things that make it different, that make it magical. I'm curious, what does a day in the life of Maritza look like in terms of living your witchcraft?
Huh, that is such a great question because I think it's not so much about what I'm doing, but how I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, what I'm doing is insanely mundane. Like, most recently, I'm working a whole lot. I sit at my desk most of the day. I leave to go to a grocery store. I leave to go to a gym. I hang out with friends. Luckily, I prioritize the social life. I spend evenings with my partner. Like, I have like a super generic looking life. I like to dance, I have some hobbies, whatever. Okay, great. And you can do all of those things in a lot of different states of being, right?
Hmm.
On a bad day, I can do that really stressed out or tired or kind of bummed out, it's depressed by the state of the world. On a good day, I can do that fully acknowledging that everything that's happening is nothing short of a miracle.
Hmm.
Now, I don't, I think that when I'm fully spiritually connected, it's an experience of bliss and joy and expansion. And I find it super pleasant. And I can't live like that because I would
Hmm.
just be like, kind of like high, away with the fairies all day long. There's no way I could function on planet Earth if I was always living in that state. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because like at that state, it's quite a high, to be honest. And I'm like, I don't need anything. Like I don't want to, play this game. But we're here to play this game. And
Hmm.
so in saying that, the way I normally do it to balance the reality of sort of straightforward life in the US in 2025 with more magical practices is that like first thing in the morning I sit at my altar, right? I have an
Hmm.
altar set up at home and I sit there and I do, it depends. I do usually a silent meditation. I did that for like 14 years. Or now I'm experimenting with some guided meditations, which is really fun because I get to hear all different versions of what people do when they're within
Hmm.
themselves. And it's really funny because I always tell people that, what is working magic? Usually it looks like this, right? Like I'm just sitting there with my eye closed doing all this work inside of me, but I mean, yeah, sometimes I do really cool ritual and there's fire involved and other people and music and all the things, but it can be really quiet and that's it, right? And so yeah, so a morning practice for sure where I do some sort of meditation or some sort of spell casting or maybe some reading, some sort of learning. I pull a card every day and I do some journaling and that's
Hmm.
just sort of like 101, like the
Hmm.
bare minimum. This is going to sound kind of weird to say, but it's just my experience. I try to be outdoors every day. Like it
Yeah.
is feasible for me to not be outside of a building for
Hmm.
days if I don't make it an intentional thing. So I think that being outside in the elements, and yes, walking down the street in a city counts as outside in the elements. It doesn't have to be like this hike in this beautiful forest. I mean, hell,
Yeah.
if I get the chance, amazing. But even just like walking around the block, like hearing the sounds of nature, even if most of them are traffic, you know what I mean? They're still like naturally occurring is also a big part of it. And I think more than anything is just bringing a daily awareness to where I'm at, how I'm feeling, how I'm thinking, how I'm behaving, and being intentional about that and
Yeah.
bringing, the best possible energy that I can to everything and everywhere I go.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds so similar in so many ways to my mornings and my days, and that
Mhm.
I often, say the magic in the mundane, because it is.
Mhm.
We can't live in that blissed out, high connected state at all times as much as we might want to. There's a life to live, an embodied one. And so those other practices and just remembering to notice the magic during the
Mhm.
day is so important. So, oh my gosh, we could talk forever. I
I
feel
think
like
so.
we're kindred spirits, and I'm conscious of, of the time. And so, for anybody who's curious to learn more from you, to walk the path with you, to connect with you, how or what are you offering for that? Or how's the best way for people to get in touch and work with you?
Yeah, thank you. So you can check out my website at brujaschool.com. It's Bruja, and it's literally the word in Spanish for witch. We also have a link, especially for your listeners, that will take you to a little gift
Oh,
that I've
yay.
prepared. So yeah, you can get that as well. I'm on Instagram at maritza.a.schafer. And the way I work with people, I have a program where I basically teach everything I know about spiritual practices, including spell casting, and using this method I call the liberation magic method, because it's about liberating yourself in all aspects of your life. I run that a few times a year. There's a waiting list open right now because there's a live cohort I'm teaching at the moment. I offer individual tarot readings, and I have another few little introductory courses that you can check out on my website as well.
Oh, amazing. That's all sounds, yeah, really beautiful. And of course, all of those ways to connect will be linked below in the show notes, as always. Before we close today, is there any last words that you want to share with the listeners? Anything else that wants to be spoken?
Hmm. I think that if you've made it this far, it's probably for a reason. So I would invite you to and encourage you to just go witch out all the way, find your path, own your spirituality, own your power, and know that the world desperately needs it. Like, you doing that is a favor to the rest of humanity.
Mm, beautiful message. Thank you so much. Thank you for being my guest today. This was such a joy to chat.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And thank you, Woo Crew, for listening. As always, if you like this episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, follow, all the things on whatever platform you are on. And I will be back here with you same time next week. Bye for now.